I'm not too confident in many things, and as a result, I am not much of a betting man. But if I was gonna bet a lot of money on anything, it would be that the Charlotte Hornets are one of the 3 worst teams in the NBA this year at minimum. That clip could really come back to bite me in the ass. The Hornets over the last few years have been one of the worst ran, if not the worst ran, franchises in the NBA. And after a frankly disastrous offseason, and at least in my opinion, I think they will be the worst team in the league. Here's why.
Absolutely incredibly with the acrobatic alley-oop.
This will be the first video of 30 where I give a season preview for each NBA team in order of my personal power rankings. I will give an opinion on how good I think the team will be in the upcoming season, as well as probably give some insight about their futures. And I'll try my best to make this daily because there are only so many days until the NBA season begins. It really depends on how hard I find these to make. I might just have to stop it midway through. We'll see. Also, it's worth mentioning that Legend of Winning did this last year, and he did it way better than I could. He's a fantastic NBA YouTuber, so if you are not subscribed to him yet, go be sure to do it. But anyways, the Charlotte Hornets. If I had to choose one word to describe the starting lineup and overall roster of the Charlotte Hornets, it would be the word inconsistency. They will probably be going with Terry Rozier, Malik Monk, Miles Bridges, Marvin Williams, and Cody Zeller as their starting lineup, and that would mean Devontae Graham, Dwayne Bacon, Nick Batum, PJ Washington, and Willie Hernangomez are the bench unit. I could see this team going completely young and starting PJ Washington and Willie Hernangomez, but I would bet against it. Though I definitely think the Hornets will be looking to move Marvin to a team that needs a veteran forward. But when we look at the Hornets roster, their guards and wings are really inconsistent. Malik Monk so far has had a very rocky career, but to be fair, he has had inconsistent play time, and it is hard to be a consistent player when you don't play consistently. But so far on the court, he has shot poorly from the field, shooting just 39% and 33% from 3, and his comfort as a scorer is just not there, which isn't great for a guy who, coming into the NBA, was seen as a pure scorer. Clearly that has not translated so far. Now, even though I do think some of this is the fault of how the Hornets have managed Malik Monk, I also don't think he will be anywhere near as good as he was projected to be coming out of college. And even if consistent minutes make him more of a consistent and efficient scorer, having him be what will probably be the second scoring option on this team is far from ideal. But what is even more far from ideal is who they have as the #1 scoring option. Terry Rozier. I made a video 2 months ago on the Hornets after they signed this guy to an obscene $19 million a year. I am not a fan of Rozier. But if I am being nice, there is a chance that on a team like the Hornets, where he is very necessary as a scorer, he could be more valued, actually way more valued than he was in Boston, where he wasn't necessary as a scorer, and as a result he ended up stepping on some toes. But I personally view Rozier as a shorter J.R. Smith. And not 2013 Sixth Man of the Year J.R. Smith, I mean 2018 grabbing an offensive rebound and running out the clock when it's a tied game J.R. Smith. But I could be wrong. I expect Rozier to put up a good amount of points this year, as I do Malik Monk, probably both in the high teens, but I do expect the efficiency to be pretty pitiful. Now, I also said that their other wing was pretty inconsistent, and that is Miles Bridges, but the difference here is Miles Bridges is actually really good. I think he can be featured as a great off-ball player for this team, hopefully playing off of Rozier and Monk. Bridges is a super athlete with some ball handling abilities, and he is a bad shooter, at least percentage-wise, but he has room to grow with a good form. I think as a cutter, he could be elite. If he gets switched onto a guard, he is strong enough to overpower them in the post, and even if he isn't the greatest shooter, you can't leave him open, because if he gets enough momentum off of the catch, he will be dunking all over over your favorite team's shot blocking center. He is easily my favorite player on this team, and sadly, he might even be the best player on this team. Now, as for Marvin Williams, because he is on a 1-year deal, I expect the Hornets to trade him to a team for a contract that is of the same size with more years on it for a first-round pick. But as for now, Marvin is like a poor man's Draymond Green defensively. Versatile, can defend 1 through 4, 5 at times, and offensively, he is pretty much just a spot-up shooter. Solid ball handler as well for a 4. And Cody Zeller is pretty much the most big man in the history of big men. Good rebounder, good rim protector, good pick and roll man, can finish at the rim, offensive rebounds. He's even balding. Basically right out of the 90s. As for the bench, Devontae Graham I think is actually the best point guard on this roster. He had pretty much no success in the NBA, but he has done great in the G League. In the G League, he averaged 23, 5, and 5, shooting 44% from the field and an insane 38% from 3 on 10 attempts a game. And in college, he was averaging 7 assists a game, so he is a pretty solid playmaker, but to be fair, I criticized Monk and Rozier for their inefficiencies, so I need to do the same for Graham. So far, he has not translated well into the NBA and he has shot very poorly, but I do still think that there is talent here and I think he'll be fine. Dwayne Bacon was fantastic in the last 10 games of the season for the Charlotte Hornets. The Hornets started giving Bacon 30 minutes a game to close out the year, and in those 10 games, he put up 13.5 points, shooting 49% from the field and 43% from 3 on 4.5 attempts. Just like Graham, I wouldn't be surprised if Bacon ended up being a lot better than the player that was starting over him, because he has just been way more consistent offensively, not just in those 10 games, but overall. For the season, he shot 47% from the field and 44% from 3. Don't go crazy on that 3-point percentage because it was on only 2.5 attempts a game, but he's also a really good defensive player. I would say overall Bacon is just a better player than Monk is, at least at the moment, but Monk has more potential and as a result he will be getting more minutes and starting, but I think Bacon is someone to watch out for. Batum sucks now and he's overpaid. That's about it. PJ Washington is pretty much the definition of versatility on both sides of the ball. PJ is pretty much a Paul Millsap type, good ball handler for the 4, he can shoot the ball better than Millsap can, he looks like a legit outside threat in the NBA, he posts up when it makes sense, and overall he has a good sense of what's going on the court all the time. And defensively, he can hang with the big guys in the post, but also switch onto the perimeter and guard a point guard. I also wouldn't be surprised if he overtook Marvin Williams as the starting 4, either because Williams gets traded or he's just a simply better player. And Willy Hernangomez, I believe, can be an Enes Kanter type of player, basically a good inside scorer and rebounder, not a good defender just like Kanter, but he also has some 3-point range. He shot 38% from 3 last year on very little attempts, but he has shown potential to be able to stretch the floor. So when we look at this roster as a whole, we have a bunch of unexperienced young players, some of which have proven to be very inefficient, albeit with inconsistent minutes, as well as 2 veterans, which one of them is pretty bad at this point in Nick Batum, and a solid role player in Marvin Williams. This is also under an unproven coach. This team is made up of so many questions, and based off of what some of these players have shown in the past, it doesn't appear that the answers to those questions are positive ones. So a whole bunch of inexperienced players mixed with a lot of players with negative experience being led by minimal veteran talent with a coach who has almost no experience as a head coach. This team is going to be the worst one in the NBA. There's a chance they don't have the worst record because it's the Eastern Conference, but I definitely think I would take any other NBA roster over this one. I expect this team to win no more than 25 games, but on a positive note, as a result of that, they should have a pretty solid lottery pick. My only concern is that the Hornets may delude themselves into thinking that they are set at point guard because of Terry Rozier. Even if he has a good season, you should never pass on someone like Cole Anthony because of it. I understand that's kind of a crazy scenario, but based on what the Hornets have done in the past, I would not put it past them. That would be like the Hawks passing on Trae Young because they have Dennis Schroeder. So hopefully that does not happen. What I will say on a positive note for the Charlotte Hornets, the young talent on this team is actually a lot better than I expected. When I looked into it, I really like PJ Washington and Dwayne Bacon, and I already liked Miles Bridges. It's just the top two names on this team, Malik Monk and Terry Rozier, seem to get all the attention of the young talent, but the Hornets actually have a couple of solid young players that just aren't getting any spotlight. But I think PJ Washington actually has potential to be a star in the NBA. But even though there is some solid young talent here, the inexperience from pretty much everywhere makes me think this will be the worst team in the NBA. That is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.